Better Witch Than Never. A Salem Cozy Mystery. Catherine Waltan. Prologue. This isn't right. I'm not supposed to be here. I don't know where I am, but that much I can tell. I can hear chanting, but I don't know where it's coming from. It sounds far away, yet close, all at the same time. I close my eyes, trying to focus my attention on the strangely regular fluctuations in the sound. That might be a bad idea, but for some reason, it feels right to listen closely, letting the rhythm into my head. The chanting feels safe. It feels important. This place is like a maze, though. A million hallways lead to other hallways. I don't understand it. I seek to follow the sound of the women's voices. At least, I think the voices I hear are female. Women with powerful voices chanting over and over again. But even as I feel myself drawing closer, I seem to only get more and more lost. "Come, child," I hear suddenly, but not with my ears. No, I hear the words in my head. The voice is of a woman who I can tell immediately is far wiser than me. "You belong here." "No, I don't," I say, shaking my head violently, side to side. And for the first time, I realize that the walls I'm walking down are marked with something dark. It looks black, but when I touch it and I feel its warmth, I realize that it's red. Blood. I panic, turning around and running the other way. "Yes, you do," the voice says back. I'm running and running, but it feels like I'm just coming back to the same place over and over again. Am I going the right way? The walls begin to close in on me, and I try to scream, but the air is taken from my lungs. Suddenly, I'm in a field. A large field. Maybe it's right outside, or maybe it's far away, but I'm there. There are several women standing in a circle, chanting. A familiar voice stands out above them all. The wise woman from inside my head. "What are you doing? Where am I? Who are you?" I try to scream, but I cannot hear my own voice. I want to run away, but I can't will my legs to move. I can't even turn my head to look away. So captivated I am by what is unfolding in front of me. "Join us," the woman says, holding out her hand. She has a long mop of curly gray hair that moves with her hand. I reach for it, but as I hold out my hand to her, trying to accept her invitation, she recedes further and further away from me, fading and then coming back into focus, like some kind of strange energy field, or those bursts of solar storms we were told about in high school physics class. Suddenly, the woman sharpens totally into focus and falls to the ground. She's bleeding. Why is she bleeding? The women around me are wailing as if they're in unimaginable pain. But that makes no sense because, as far as I can tell, none of them have been touched. But then I start to feel it too. I cry out, overtaken by a pain that shoots straight into my heart. It hurts. It hurts so terribly. My arms fly to my chest as I try to stop whatever is causing it, but I can't figure out what it is. There's nothing there. I scream. It's a primal, unfamiliar scream, and I could hear it even over the screams of those around me. Pressure builds up in my head, and I can't stop. I just keep screaming and screaming until eventually I'm screaming in my own bedroom. Struggling to wake up and throwing my quilt off of me, I try to catch my breath. My chest is heaving, rising and falling as I try to calm down, and my hair is slick with sweat. My cat Salem meows next to me, clearly not happy that his sleep has been interrupted. "Sorry, Salem," I mutter, stroking his soft head. He meows again and leaps nimbly from his place on my bed, stalking over to the windowsill. My eyes follow him, only to see that curtains have been pulled off the wall. "That's weird," I say, mostly to myself, a little bit to Salem. His yellow eyes dart to the other side of the room, and I follow suit. What the hell has happened here? My room has been destroyed. No, not destroyed. That suggests a natural disaster. This feels intentional and malevolent. My room has been ransacked. My random collection of stones and shells and special silly trinkets have been flung all over the floor, instead of in their rightful places on my dresser or desk or bookshelf. Books and clothes are strewn about the room, drawers pulled out or fallen haphazardly. I leap out of my bed, looking around the room, trying to understand what has happened. I check my phone, my wallet, my jewelry, but nothing is missing. Who would do this? Have I suddenly started sleepwalking and attacking my own life? I hold my breath while I listen to the ambience of the room. It's a creaky old apartment in a creaky old house, but now I don't hear anything. So if someone broke in, they must be gone by now. Hopefully. Venturing cautiously out of my bedroom, I go to check on the rest of my house. "Hello?" I call, looking around for any movement. "Hello?" Hello? That's what I come up with. Right. Wouldn't want to be rude to a marauding intruder, Margie. So it goes. My apartment is small, so it doesn't take long for me to look around and confirm that nothing outside of my bedroom has been touched. In fact, no doors or windows anywhere show any evidence of having been unlocked or broken. Great. That's not super creepy or anything. Going back to my bedroom, I pick up my cell phone from where it has been charging on my bedside table and call the police. 911, what is your emergency? Pearl, it's me, Margie Halloway. Someone broke into my apartment. It's really weird. I'm okay, and nothing has been taken, but my bedroom is destroyed, and I just don't know how anyone could have gotten in here. Could you send someone? I've known Pearl forever. Everyone knows everyone here in Salem, Colorado. 9,000 feet up and thriving, we always say. Pearl says it more often than anyone else. But tonight, her usual sunny attitude seems in short supply. Sorry, Margie, she says, her voice a little unsteady. If you are in no clear and immediate danger, you'll just have to keep your doors locked and wait until one of our units is free. Everyone is working the gruesome. She trails off, as if trying to stop herself. But Pearl being Pearl, she soon continues, though her voice drops as if she's being recorded and listened to, which of course she is, because she is the dispatcher. You haven't heard? There's been a murder. A terrible murder. Right here in Salem. Chapter 1. I think of myself as a sensible woman. Or so I tell Salem as I sweep up the mess of my room as quickly as I can. I then make myself one of my favorite calming teas, into which I must admit I pour a small amount of ancient whiskey, a remnant of my father's precious cachet. Let's just try to get some sleep, okay, Salem? You'll take care of me, right? No ghosts, or dervishes or tiny tornadoes are going to come back again tonight, right? I pat the comforter next to me, where Salem usually snuggles up. But after the excitement, if you can call it that, of this particular evening, he stalks to the furthermost corner of my bed, turns his unnerving green-gray eyes toward me, and sits like a sphinx, head up, ready to pounce. "He'll protect me," I murmur to myself, in my whiskey and adrenaline-induced exhaustion. So, it's okay for me to sleep, and I just hope I don't have any more dreams. "No dreams, right, Salem?" I murmur as I succumb. In the morning, I awake to Salem sitting on my chest, staring fixedly at me. "Time to get up, huh?" I say. "You want food? You want me to go to my stupid, irrelevant, yet necessary job?" Salem raises his beautiful gray tail, arches his perfect back, and heads off to the kitchen. I pad along after him, shrugging on my green bathrobe over my gray fleece flannel pajamas. Gotta love the lingerie of singlehood. And it's cold here in Salem, Colorado. Almost always. And this morning has a little extra chill, I have to admit. But I gather myself together, pour myself my morning green tea with stevia and mint, and drag on my work clothes. Jesus God. If I didn't need the money to pay my rent, I would not be working for a pretentious little rooster cock who thinks he owns the hamlet of Salem. Seriously, Arthur Doring bills himself as a real estate caretaker, that is, of course, slum landlord, and a keeper of the Salem, Colorado tradition of welcoming tourists to our quaint and lovely environs. And this morning, I'm supposed to attend a crucial meeting of the local Rotary Club, whose members might or might not want to participate in a fundraiser for the groundbreaking ceremony of the Arthur Doring Special Refuge for soon-to-be-named endangered species. That's my name for it. The guy bills himself as some sort of environmentalist. Maybe he is, but he still can't seem to name an endangered species. I don't know why I'm so hard on him. He gave me a job that pays more than minimum wage. He rarely makes it obvious that he is looking at my breasts and ass, although, of course, he almost always is. And he does me the incredible honor of letting me write his press releases and sales pitches for him, without attribution. But again, he pays me $18 an hour, and I can pay rent, buy beans, rice, cheese, and occasionally broccoli for me, buy gourmet salmon and mackerel for Salem, and even, on special holidays, afford a shampoo from the high-end shelf of the Kroger. I'm living the dream. Enough. Time to head into work. I try to clear my head of all the frustration and, honestly, the fear and confusion that I've been feeling since my dream last night turned into a real-life nightmare. What the heck? Sometimes I ask myself why I am living here, in this random, unknown town where I grew up. My parents long ago fled to Surprise, Arizona, where my dad, who used to be so deep and cool, has now, apparently, taken up golf. My sister Regina is in New Mexico. She probably spends a lot of time with my parents on crystal holidays in Sedona, though. How am I still here? And I'm the only one in my whole freaking family who actually finds geology interesting and not an excuse for shallow statements about spirituality. Ugh. I pull up in front of A. Doring Enterprises. Time to put on the necessary face to meet the people I must meet to earn the $18 an hour that, apparently, I'm worth. Well, here she is. What did I tell you? Brilliant, beautiful, and by the way, on my payroll and ready to take your donations. Arthur is already into his second or third, or who knows how many Bloody Marys or mimosas. Probably Bloody Marys. Or maybe the frickin' whiskey flask he thinks is so cool poured into his coffee. I'm so not sure why I am participating in this absurdity. Are you with us, Margie? Arthur barks at me. The love fest, obviously over. Yes, sure. Great. Well, take notes. Take notes. You are curating greatness for the ages. Did he just say that? I guess. So I check the heck out of this stupid scenario just as Arthur Doring and his acolytes in the Rotary Club begin their Mutual Appreciation Society meeting. But Arthur, says Merle Purtle, the rabbity little man who owns the local overpriced hardware store. I mean, as members of the business community, what should we be doing to protect ourselves? Murder. A killing? Maybe more than one killing? Here in our beautiful town. How could this happen? Merle hunches his sharp shoulders and seems to shiver in a strange delirium. Others at the conference table seem unperturbed and simply raise their coffee cups in a sort of strange, syncopated rhythm. Jeez, what am I doing here? I look over at the coffee pots. Why are there 4 coffee pots in this place? Makes no sense at all. How much coffee does one small, prideful group of useless men need? The coffee pots are old school. And I think, wouldn't it be funny if they just suddenly started to spit out old school burnt coffee? They do. They really do. Like, all 4 of the coffee pots start spitting out nasty, old, sweaty, and I fear moldy coffee all over the room as if they really mean it. I really need to quit my job, if it hasn't already quit me. What just happened? I close my eyes. Chapter 2. Back in my apartment. Still no word from Pearl. Not even a comforting message that she passed it along to the 3 police in this tiny town. But no need to worry, we have your back. And, okay, I still avoid the piles of stuff that I don't even want to touch or clean up or throw out. But I'm good. I'm good. I can handle this. Right? Salem regards me seriously. Right, Salem? He stalks away, and who can blame him? Why, for heaven's sakes, did I name my cat after a stupidly named town in Colorado, which was named after a horribly historic town in Massachusetts? It's next door to a curse, I'm thinking now. Poor little guy. I guess. I thought of the name when I adopted him from the shelter, and he seemed to respond. I mean, I can still see that little guy with his claws on the cage. He spoke to my heart, and I needed my heart spoken to after Daniel left me. So, yeah, Salem is right and good. Double home. Stop. Time to try to get the world, at least my world, back on its normal axis. I'll go to work. I'll kowtow to freaking Arthur Doring. I'll write the little promos and promise the faux returns and maybe book a few short-term rentals for clueless flatlanders. Whatever. I'll do it. Just to live and be. I once thought I had a life plan, but I do not have one anymore. So I'm surfing. What a joke. Surfing up here at 9,000 feet in Salem, Colorado. And I do it. I am good at this. I have pretended to believe in Arthur's vision of a renewed and renewable mountain retreat, and I have not vomited yet. And I am ready to head back to my ruined home afterward. Another day at work. Check. As far as I can tell, I did not piss off anyone or cause any distress in the hierarchy of A. Doring Enterprises. Excellent. Well then, I have made it through this day. The beauty of living in a small town is that I can walk home leisurely. And the beauty of living in a small town that sometimes has some tourists is that I can stop for a coffee or another treat along the way in one of the awkward, touristy, overpriced shops that keep themselves open even during the off-season. Perfect. I'll stop at Glory Time Cafe. Yep, I'll stop there. And maybe the caffeine in what I order will stop the sudden, painful pounding in my head. I look behind me for no reason I can think of. And there she is, the gray-haired, winsome woman from my dream. What the hell? The hell? An old, strange, lithe, smooth-moving woman is following me. Is she following me? Or is she just a well-preserved woman getting her daily exercise here in Salem, Colorado? Am I demonizing old women now? Oh, but no. She is the woman who reached for my hand. She is the woman who bled, keening in pain, doubled over in agony in my dream last night. What is going on? Coffee. I'll get some coffee, and maybe this will all dissipate in the sweet insistence of sugar and caffeine. I quicken my steps, fling open the door of Glory Time, and ask for their cheapest cup of coffee. I can't afford that expensive stuff. Just give me a cup of coffee, and I'll add the half and half and sugar and call it good. That's right. That's what that is. Hey, Margie, says Jack, the little brother of one of my lesser friends from high school. What'll it be? Cheapest cup of Java again today? But he's a nice kid, and he understands and starts to hand me a giant mug filled with coffee. The half and half is fresh today, and we have honey if you want it. He's got a nice smile. I truly do appreciate these things about this little town. Just $1, sweetheart, Jack says. You're saving my life, I say and reach for my wallet. Not there. Reach again. Not there. I am positive I gathered all my crucial documents and necessities after last night's incursion. I had them on me all day. A shiver crawls over me. I turn around and I see her. The woman with the gray flowing hair who I saw dying in a pool of blood last night in my dream. Here then, she says with a gentle sigh, and a perfect silver dollar appears in my palm. Okay then, says Jack. I guess you have the cash after all. He smiles brightly and hands me my coffee. You've got the magic. What? I spin and try to follow her trail, but it is not there. What am I thinking? Chapter 3. I awake once again with Salem on my chest. He is staring at me with a kind of determined concern? Disdain? I really don't know what he thinks of me. I like to believe he cares about me, but the intensity he brings to this human, other kinds of animal companion relationship sometimes freaks me out. I'm pretty sure he is smarter than I am. And though I feel that way about many humans as well, I'm probably more correct about Salem than about my asshole human counterparts. At least we've finally made it through this week. The sickly buzz around town is still focused on the murder, which is yet to be solved. I have tried to pay as little attention as possible to the gossip, uninformed and insatiable around the killing. I haven't even let myself hear or know anything about the victim. I feel raw and sad and pained even thinking about it, which I guess is good because I should be sad about a murder victim. But this is really weird. I'm not even curious. I'm just scared. To be honest, I'm still having really strange dreams, and if I had enough money and a place to go, I would be long gone from my apartment. But I need to chill. It's Saturday. It's been a long week. And at least 3 days since my apartment was blown apart like a horror film. And just 1 day since the police came on by and shook their heads and asserted their lack of insight. Yeah, I guess yet another woman on her period tore apart her own crappy apartment because she wanted attention from law enforcement. Of course, that happens. Except maybe I'm somehow connected to the real crime this tiny town experienced this week. Yeah, maybe never report anything to the police, even in your own tiny hometown where you went to school with everyone and everyone loves each other. Unless you want to be blamed for anything unfortunate that might happen because you are a woman with a cat named Salem. I'm clearly not feeling all that safe and cozy. Well, there's the doorbell. Who could that be? A curious neighbor? A suddenly solicitous officer of the law? I debated answering, but then I figure, what the hell? Come on in, I say, throwing caution to the wind. I am so used to living in a safe, small town that I haven't even rekeyed my door yet, even after the break-in. Because why bother if they, whoever they are, can get into your room and toss your stuff around like confetti without any verifiable means of entry? Anyway, Margie, sweetheart, baby, I'm back. I'm here for you. Tell me what you need. Daniel burst through the door, glowing like some sort of juiced-up second-string Marvel hero. No. What? Daniel, who departed in a cold rage 6 months ago. Daniel, who said I could never be the woman he needs because I don't love myself and know myself enough to give him the love he needs? Really? The hulking Sasquatch of emotional clarity? That's Daniel. He does look good tonight, however, as he always has, with his black hair and his brown skin and his hazel eyes and his exuberant passion for absurdity. We'd been together for 4 years. Are you kidding me? We shared, I thought, our dreams and our fears and our love for dogs and cats and black bears and the so overlooked and undervalued possums. He left me. He left me, and I cannot understand or forgive him for that. And I certainly can't have him barging back into my life out of the freaking blue. It's already too weird. How is this happening? No. Daniel, no. I just can't do this tonight. I'm not really even sure I believe he is here. Is this some kind of existential test of sanity? And he stops up short, still across the room from me. The planes of his beautiful face seem to ripple in the low light of my ancient 60-watt bulbs. But baby, he says, we need to talk. I need to tell you. No, I say. And oh my goodness, his eyes get bigger and rounder than ever I have seen them. And somehow, he is swept out of my apartment, and my door just slams shut behind him. What was that? Chapter 4. This particular morning, Salem is neither on my chest nor lording over me from the corner of my bed. He is perched on the narrow window ledge that looks out onto the courtyard of this dilapidated house. His head swivels from the courtyard, then back to me, as I wake up once again in my absurd bedroom. I still haven't dealt with the disorder of the break-in, or whatever it was. Apparently, my little home invasion, and I understand and appreciate this, is no big deal up against the murder case that no one seems to be able to unravel. I'm a little annoyed with myself. Truly. I haven't even asked who was killed or who their people are. I have been so focused on my own little creepy frustrations around my home disruption that I have neglected my human, civic, empathetic duty. And also, what was with Daniel showing up last night and being swept out of my house with a little swipe of my mind? What the heck? Who am I? Salem gazes at me again. Now, he's jumped back on my bed. Tuna time, he seems to indicate. Okay, I gather myself up and trudge to the kitchen. I don't even put on my bathrobe. Who cares? I can grab a can of tuna, open it, and scoop it into Salem's dish. He regards me with a slightly wrinkled nose, and with what I fear might be disdain. Okay, so I kind of wanted to let Daniel stay last night. But didn't I use my special creepy powers to expel him from the house? Enough! I'm starting to unravel. Again last night, I dreamed of things too real to be imagined. And I know that something is eroding the division between dream and reality. So, it's Saturday in Salem, Colorado. Good day to go to the library where I can revisit the glory days of my youth by vibing with Rita Riedel, as she insists her name has always been. I must do some research. Research, books, and reality, they provide stability, right? We're going on a treasure hunt today, Salem, I tell him. And, well, if you're really good, you can come along and pretend to be a purse dog or an emotional support animal. You are an emotional support animal, of course. But could you quietly pretend to be one at the library while I talk to Ms. Rita? Salem just looks at me, and then at the capacious reusable grocery bag I offer him as a home away from home. And understandably, he hides under the bed. Okay, I'll do this alone. Thing is, Salem, I tell him, because I have no friends and no significant other and no actual other creature in the world to talk to. I'm just not sure what's going on. Seems a bit as if I'm sucked into a dream world of psycho witches, which is creepy all on its own. But also, it seems all to be happening in the context of a local, horrifying, and insoluble murder. Not to mention the strange breaching of your and my apartment. So, yeah. Salem remains hidden and silent. So I set out alone to the library, which was, and frankly, still is my favorite place in town. When I was a child, the little library was like a hobbit lodge for me. I felt welcomed and real and befriended there. Today, though, I head there with purpose and resolve. And I'll admit, a kind of anxious fear. Is fear not always anxious? Not always. My fear is anxious because I'm not so much afraid of what I don't know, but because of what I'm afraid I do know. Saturday is a good day to walk through this town, as long as you don't mind the local yahoos tooting their horns and sticking out their tongues as if that meant something significant. And if you don't mind the Flatlanders slowing down and rolling down their windows and asking if you might like to show them the best the mountains have to offer. Because your mountain, sweetie, might be just what I drove all the way here from Illinois for. Yeah. Why do I still live here? But I finally reached the library, and no one but one exhausted mom with 2 toddlers is there. And I see Ms. Rita huddled in the biography section, as far from the mom and kids as possible, and I launch myself at her. She's scared of people, Ms. Rita Riedel, but she loves information. And I know she can get me from point A to Z more quickly than anyone else in this town. Or any town, likely. Miss Rita! I exclaim, albeit in a loud whisper. So good to see you. How are you? Why, Margie Halloway, as I do think I still live and breathe. It's a joy and a relief to see you. The buxom and retiring librarian replies.
especially since hearing about what happened to you in your flat.
Miss Rita spent a glorious 2 years in England and has preferred to say flat rather than crappy rental apartment ever since. She narrows her eyes and looks at me directly now.
What can I possibly do for you?
Well, I begin. I'm just looking for information. Just kind of generally about myths. You know, about, well, witches and such. I guess growing up in a town called Salem, it finally catches up with you, right? My comment is lame. And my laugh is even lamer. Miss Rita is no dummy.
You heard then? About the newest murder?
Miss Rita regards me with intensity.
You know?
No. What? I say. No.
What are you talking about?
Miss Rita stares at me fixedly.
You don't know? You don't know? Are you sure?
Her eyes almost seem to roll back in her head. She seems so upset, but she seems to regain her equanimity.
Of course not. Of course not, she says. But you'll want to do some research.
She stretches her lips across her teeth in what I want to believe is a smile, and she leads me over to the ancient microfiche reader.
You might want to start here,
she says. And she simply walks away, picks up her purse from her desk, and leaves the library, with me all alone in it. I watch her leave, confused but not surprised. Miss Rita has always been like this, ever since I was a kid. Kind of mysterious and eccentric. I don't dwell on it too much. Too focused on figuring out how this contraption in front of me works. It looks like a cross between a tortilla press and a 1990s era word processor monitor. Next to it is a large plastic bin with ancient manila folders. I pick up a folder and see little squares of ancient negatives. There are also rolls of old film inside tubes, all labeled in a nearly indecipherable hand. These must be the archives of the local newspaper going back to the founding of the town. I paw through the folders and find one faintly labeled Paranormal and Witchcraft Fact and Fiction. Apparently these are the microfiche to which Ms. Rita alluded. I read the faded instructions on the side of the machine, switch on the light, and, not knowing where else to begin, insert the first piece of film from the witchcraft folder and begin to read. Chapter 5. The walk home is a fuzzy journey filled with a lot of emotions, all of which are impossible to pin down. I thought this research would give me answers, but all it's left me with is more questions. I feel like I'm going absolutely crazy because I'm actually starting to consider, God, I can't even think it, let alone say it out loud, because I can't be a witch. Witches aren't real. There has to be some other, much simpler explanation to all of the weird stuff going on with me. But I can only think of two. I'm going crazy, or I'm becoming a witch. And I don't even actually have a very clear idea of what a witch even is. I mean, if they are real. Sure, I've heard of Wiccans, and, of course, like every Colorado town hoping for a tourist or two, Salem has a few new agey crystal shops. But somehow, what I've been experiencing lately doesn't seem to have a lot to do with mass-produced faux crystals and magnets imported from China. Seriously, I may be turning into a witch. My body reacts to the thought, chills crawling up my spine and causing me to shake. Maybe I should lean into the crazy idea. That sounds a lot easier. Or maybe I should just ignore it. That's been working really well so far. But I can't pretend what's happening isn't happening. And I can't choose to ignore it anymore either. As I walk through the quaint downtown blocks on my way home from the library, my mind is reeling from anxiety to fear to a stirring of curiosity, then back to anxiety again. My heels clack like sharp talons on the pavement, and the familiar sound almost lulls me into a sense of security. A false sense, considering what's been going on around town recently. I used to think this place was untouchable, that nothing bad could happen here. But now, it's clear just how wrong that is. Nowhere is safe in Salem. While listening to the regular rhythm of my own footsteps, I begin to hear the uneven patter of some that seem to follow mine. Just a slight syncopated beat after my own. I take a quick peek over my shoulder, trying not to be too obvious as I twist my head to look behind me. I don't know what I expect. Something normal, I guess. Maybe a young woman taking a run, or a father walking hand in hand with his child. Something normal and safe, so I can tell myself I was being paranoid. But that's not what I see. The old crone is following me. Her long hair is down and flowing behind her in a sort of gray, curly cape as she takes each step. She looks to be limping on one leg, pulling the other behind her in a peculiar brisk and efficient sort of tugging motion, as if hurrying along a recalcitrant dog. I try not to stare at her for too long. I want to still at least pretend this is just a casual looking around, as opposed to a pointed inspection of her person. But something about her is just mesmerizing. It's hard to look away. But now, she's drawing closer to me, and she's giving me this weird look, her lips set, her eyes enormous and black, as if her irises have drowned in her pupils. She looks angry and terrified and determined all at the same time. She hobbles in a seeming rush to meet up with me, her left leg still bumping along behind her. And I panic. Turning away, I pick up my pace and practically start speed walking. Any faster, and I would be off running. My heart beats loud in my ears, and my breathing is fast and shallow. A million things are running through my head, and I can't make sense of any of them. I just don't understand what the woman would want with me so badly, and why she'd be so angry coming after me. Visions of her fill my head from the dream. Visions of her covered in blood, of her chasing after me, telling me to come toward her. I see all those women bowing down around her and crying. What does it all mean? Whatever it means, I don't like it. Especially since this whole mess with her started the same time that murder started popping up in Salem. And now she's chasing me around? Yeah. No, thank you. I keep my distance until I finally arrive at the door to my apartment. But I don't dare to look behind me again. I'm too scared. As pathetic as that sounds. Until I unlock my door, ready to bolt inside, that is. At the last moment, I turn around to scan the path I have been walking, and it is completely clear. I have no idea when the old woman stopped following me, but I sure am glad she did. I don't want to take any chances with creepy ladies who follow me on the street. I could already see the headline. Local loon Margie Halloway becomes the newest victim of mysterious Salem murder spree. More on page 3. As soon as I walk into my apartment, I hear a meow. Salem comes running in from my bedroom and weaves himself between my legs, rubbing his gray little head on my shin before sticking it out the door to my apartment and hissing. I grab him, picking him up so he doesn't get out, and kissing him on his soft forehead. It's a weird world out there, Salem, I say, closing the door with my foot as I pet my cat. I wish I could stay in here with you all day. Salem meows in response, and I smile, setting him down on the counter. If you're going to be here all day, though, I continue talking to my cat, and his yellow eyes look up at me. They're wide and curious. It's almost like he understands exactly what I'm saying to him. And hell, maybe he does. I will have to make sure it's safe. I don't know, Salem. If I really am... I lower my voice, even though there's no one listening. A witch? Then there's got to be something I can do about it, right? Something I can do with it. This power, whatever. Some kind of spell or something? He meows, and I take that as a sign of affirmation, instead of a sign that I should stop talking to my cat if I don't want to seem crazy. I throw my backpack on the chair in front of me and start digging through the books that I took out from the library. After perusing a confusing selection of the images, fragments of text, and strange anecdotes preserved on the microfiche at the library, I had decided to check out the old, dusty card catalog as well. And, sure enough, I found a few old, faded note cards listing books that had not been entered into the online catalog. The books were piled haphazardly on shelves in the most remote corner of the old library. I got just about everything on witchcraft that they had, which wasn't much. You'd think in a town called Salem they would respect their namesake's history a bit more and invest in a paranormal reading nook. But no such luck. There are a couple books about history, some ancient books of poems, a girl's guide to witches, which I doubt I will find very helpful. And there it is! One spellbook. I have no idea if this is real, obviously, but it couldn't hurt to try, right? I open the book, flipping through the pages as I take in what's in front of me. There are spells for everything. Love spells, karma spells, spells that change your appearance or make things appear or disappear, spells that purge poisons, and spells that bring sleep. But I'm looking for protection spells, I guess. Or something like protection, maybe defense or shields, whatever the witchy version of protection is. When I finally find something that seems to fit the description, I read through the instructions carefully. This could be a good test if nothing else, right? If nothing happens, maybe I'm not a witch. Maybe. I snort at the thought that the phrase, "I'm not a witch," would ever even need a maybe in front of it. The somewhat moldy, damp book says I don't need anything but intention. No weird gems or tokens, or bits of possum tongue like some of the other spells in here. So I close my eyes and think. Keep my home safe. Keep Salem safe. Protect my apartment. Keep my space safe. It feels a bit ridiculous. And by a bit, I mean completely ridiculous. But I try not to judge myself too harshly. Looking down at the page in front of me, I read the words out loud. One may not walk within these bounds. May not. One may not harm these souls. May not. Smote the serpent does fly and slither, smote it to 9 parts. Anyone who tries to bring the apple here would never more enter this house. It sounds like nonsense to me. Is smote the serpent's name as well as what is going to happen to it to render it into 9 pieces? Very peculiar. And when I'm finished reciting the strange words, nothing happens. No rending of barriers between parallel universes, no earth-shattering revelations, and no eruption of flames, signaling the destruction of evil forces. Probably just words, huh? I say to Salem. He meows and walks up to the edge of the counter, presenting me with his tiny yet regal head to pet. I laugh, giving the little guy what he wants. That's okay, I say to him, letting his silky gray hair run through my fingers. I'll keep you safe. Chapter 6. Margie. I struggle awake from troubling dreams to the sound of my name being called. Margie? Margie! I shoot out of bed, looking around for who is yelling at me. But I don't see anyone. Maybe I left my phone on? But I check it, and it's not receiving a call or anything. The only one here with me is Salem, at whom I look with a carefully light and inquisitive expression, trying to convey nonchalance rather than the near panic I'm experiencing. Did you hear that, bud? I said it, Salem responds, and I nearly fall back into my bed. I see him talking. I see his little cat mouth moving and words coming out. His little tiny pink tongue delicately poised at the roof of his mouth to enunciate the sibilant S. Okay, so I am going crazy. I am a mad woman. Maybe I should call the doctor? As if a doctor would do anything other than prescribing Xanax. No point. I stare at my once familiar cat, my eyes no doubt bulging out of my face. Margie, Salem says carefully. Calm down. He pauses and ducks his head a bit. Sorry, he continues. I don't mean that in a mansplaining way. It's entirely understandable that you might be surprised or shaken by hearing me speak. I do not intend to patronize. I look around, grasping for any indication that I'm asleep, and this is all some weird fever dream caused by the Italian leftovers I devoured way too late last night. Salem? Yes, Margie. My cat. I swear to God. He has a smile in his voice as he says it. It's me. I'm still Salem. What? Is all that I can muster up in response. Because who the hell can be articulate when their cat is talking to them? With a voice like some nature documentary narrator with a faintly British and certainly upper-class inflection, I choose to lie back down in my bed to prevent fainting. I'm sure you have questions, he says. He moves from his place on the windowsill and jumps right onto the bed with me, snuggling into my side the way he always does in a comforting show of support. You can ask them of me if you'd like, but please do be assured that I'm Salem, and I'm here to help you. What does that mean, though? My mind is reeling. I can't handle this. This is all becoming too weird. Cats don't talk, and I don't cast spells, and I don't make things move with my mind. Except, recently, I have made things move with my mind. And I did at least try to cast a spell. And, well, if my senses are to be believed, cats do talk. Or, at least mine does. So, I gather you haven't made much headway on those history books you retrieved from the library, the cat muses, looking up at me with golden eyes that seemed to gaze straight into my soul. If you have read a little more extensively in those texts, you would likely not now be surprised to discover that I'm your familiar. My familiar? I repeat. You mean my familiar cat, Salem? Not so very familiar anymore. What are you talking about? I'm here to assist you, he tells me, to help you as you continue on your journey to becoming a witch, and a very powerful one at that. And to be your companion, just as I was before. You... what? You're saying that a lot. The cat has the gall to get sassy with me? I think I'm handling this pretty damn well considering. I defend myself. I feel faint, and my head is spinning, but I'm trying to keep it together. Because really, this isn't even the craziest thing I've heard all week. It's up there, but it's not the craziest. It does, however, confirm my suspicions. My fears. I'm a witch. I'm a witch. I'm a witch. Maybe with a different emphasis, it will start to make sense. Because it's going to have to start making sense if this is the reality I'm living in now. I know it's a lot, Salem says sympathetically. It's a lot for me too. Are you okay? I hope he is. I don't know what I would do if something happened to Salem. I'm excellent, he tells me. Really. It's just, you found me in a pound. My name was chosen based on where I was found, abandoned, and you saved me. Perhaps it was fate. I don't know. But last night, the other spirits came to me and told me it was my turn to protect you. They gave me the gift of speech. It all just happened so fast. But I know what I must do now. I know my purpose. I let the words sit, seeping into my brain as I try to comprehend everything that he is saying. I'm a witch, and I have a familiar, who is my cat, and who talks. And he just said something that makes me even more curious than I was just a few minutes ago when I awoke to a talking cat. Salem? I begin. Yes? I'm not exactly sure how to approach this discussion, but it is something I need to understand. I'm pretty sure. You just said that the other spirits came to you last night and gave you the ability to speak to me and told you your purpose. That's right. That's exactly what happened, Salem said solemnly, holding out a tiny paw as if to pinky swear. Well, I just need to get a sense of this familiar concept. I mean, I've watched a few Halloween movies in my time, like Hocus Pocus, and of course that really old Jack Nicholson movie called Witches of Eastwick, where he is a creepy evil man witch who sleeps with Cher and some other 80s stars. I was never really clear if those women were witches too, but I really don't understand. When you say the other spirits, does it mean that you are a spirit too? And are we good witches or bad witches? I feel pretty silly asking my little gray kitten these absurd questions, but I really do have to know. I hope I know the answer to the most important question, but I never went through a phase when I was fascinated with witches and the supernatural and all that. So I don't feel confident in my command of my new identity? More's the pity. Salem nods his little chin. Of course you have to know these things. He snickers a little. If a cat can snicker. We are all spirits, of course. Human, animal, witch, familiar, and all the other creatures and beings of the universe. But my spirit now has a special job, to care for you and protect you, and help you learn to wield your powers. And your spirit is good, as is mine. Just like any other creature or being, a witch and a familiar can be good or bad. If they're bad, we have another name for them, apparently. We don't have to go into that. It is only the ignorant and close-minded and often the misogynist who labels a witch evil. He takes a deep cat breath and opens his mouth in a wide, oxygen-seeking yawn. Talking is exhausting, he says. It takes some getting used to. And it is strange to be able to tell you all these things in words I never knew before. But the most important thing to know is that the power of the witch comes from the deep, profound, mysterious, and loving power of the earth, which is a creative and life-giving entity. It is thought that, often, over the millennia, most witches have been female because of their affinity with the cycles and mysteries of the earth. Does that make sense? I know it's a lot. I really appreciate all this information, and I'm relieved that, I guess, I'm on the side of the good witches, but I'm still feeling pretty shaky. I am a witch who has a familiar, and that familiar is my cat, who talks. In big words. Are you all right? Salem asks, nudging me with his head. I'm just getting used to this being my life, I say. Well, he says, You'll have to go to work soon. Work? I have been so caught up in the whirlwind of information I'm getting, I completely forgot about the mundane reality of work. I throw the covers off of me, scooching so I don't disturb Salem as I get out of bed. I'm just starting to get ready when something immediately scary crosses my mind. Salem? I ask. Yes, Margie. His head tilts in that cute little way it does when he's confused. I smile. He really is the same old Salem. Why now? What do you mean? I mean, my hands are gesturing in all different directions as I ask. All of this, me becoming a witch, you being my familiar, all of these powers, why is it all happening now? That I don't fully know, he says with regret. Your powers lay dormant for years. Something must have sparked them to reignite, but I don't know for certain what that could be. I think I might, I admit. Salem looks at me with his wise eyes and winks. I think you probably do. My powers coming to the surface and these bizarre murders happening at the same time can't be a coincidence. Maybe it triggered something in me. Something that made it impossible for me to ignore or hide or deny the side of myself. Or maybe I'm supposed to stop them. Maybe I've been called by the other spirits, too. And maybe I have a responsibility that comes with a power I never knew I had. This thought fills me with fear. I'm mousy Margie Halloway. I live a boring life. I'm too scared to even watch horror movies. Could I really have a role in resolving real-life evildoing? It's becoming clear to me that I'm not really going to have a choice. Chapter 7. I throw on my clothes and literally run across town to get to work on time, stopping to exchange my running shoes for the business attire required high heels once inside the foyer of the building. I am no fan of small, airless spaces, especially these days. So I choose the stairs rather than the ancient elevator, and I scurry up the stairs and into the office of A. Doring Enterprises. God, I hate this place. Without thinking too much about it, because of the months of conditioning, I seem to have tried to protect myself from salacious prying eyes today by dressing in a turtleneck sweater that hopefully will do a better job at hiding my body from my creep of a boss than my last outfit did. Because, of course, it's up to me to wear an outfit that does not invite creepiness. I take my place at the receptionist's desk, which is a grotesquely heavy blonde piece of faux wood. On the wall behind reception is an equally grotesque, gargantuan mirror etched in gilt and lighted by shafts of differentiated streams of light from recessed bulbs. It looks as if a really lame club with really bad lights got stuck in slow motion. The reception area overlooks the entirety of the office, which, as usual, is about as far from hopping as an office can get. Hopefully, no one cares or notices that I'm a few minutes late. Logging into my computer, I clock in and get started on the day, taking a look at the schedule sitting on my desk. Hey there, Margie! My entire body shivers when I hear Arthur Doring say my name. Ugh, it sounds so disgusting when he says it. He draws out the first syllable, ma, and his lips seem to quiver just a bit, bright with spittle. I'm overwrought, I'm sure, after the events and revelations of the morning. Nevertheless, the guy is really gross. He is going to single-handedly make me hate my own name. I think he already has. And now, here he comes, oozing over to my space from his office, and his hands plant themselves on my desk. You're a few minutes late, I see. His bloodshot eyes rake up and down my body, as if searching for a clue to my lateness. Or maybe just searching for a clue, period. Despite my choice of an oh-so-modest turtleneck, he locks his questing gaze on my chest. Yet again. "Early bird gets the worm," he chortles. "Lateness ain't greatness." I think I heard that on a hip-hop song. Or not. Ha 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 ha. Glad you can make it in though, Margie. We are the welcome party, as you know, for the great town of Salem, Colorado. If we're not here to welcome, well, they will not come. So, glad you made it. Yeah, glad you made it. We have an important civic duty to perform. The guy, as usual, was gabbling and staring and, more than ever today, making me want to run out the door or jump out the window. What a blowhard. Yeah, I say, avoiding eye contact. Just a weird start to the day. You know how it is? I'm not lying. Finding out my cat could talk was an extremely bizarre start to the day. It just wasn't the usual excuse for being late for work. "Well, you better be careful out there," he says, "with all this chaos going on around town." I'm a little surprised at his characterization of murder as chaos, and I'm momentarily shocked into looking at him full on. "Chaos," I say. "You mean murder?" He looked a bit surprised and displeased at my response. "Why, yes, I suppose you could choose your own term. But don't you think chaos covers it? Chaos, murder is chaotic, and it certainly is causing quite a chaos in the community. We don't need that. The Rotary Club won't be pleased. I think we need to put an end to chaos, don't you? Salem doesn't need crazy. It needs growth." Yeah, I agree, generating a small, reluctant smile to give my response the aura of authenticity. It's really been crazy around here. Arthur removes his hands from my desk and backs up a step, straightening his round shoulders as if to assert something. He smiles at me with what I decide to consider a friendly, caring smile. "Just let me know if you need a ride home from work," he says. "I know you tend to walk around." "That's very kind of you," I lie. I will not be taking him up on that. Arthur is the kind of guy who expects something if he does you a favor. In this case, he probably expects sex or some kind of sexual act that's even worse than sex. And the thought of that makes me actually throw up in my mouth. So, no matter how many murders occur in the town of Salem, Colorado, I will not be driving home with Mr. Arthur Doring. No, thank you. He saunters off after that, back to his well-appointed, cushy office where virtually no business ever really seems to happen. He does, however, have a cabinet full of expensive liquor and cut crystal glass, not to mention a tiny golf putting zone in there, which surely gives him status as a mover and shaker in the business community. So he came out here to talk just to me. That makes me feel uneasy, watching him sit back in his chair and fiddle around at his desk. I bring my attention back to the computer in front of me, rolling my shoulders back as I try to get into a comfortable position. I'll be here for hours, after all. The first thing I see when I open up the internet is the news. Not shocking, it's set as the homepage. Best to stay up to date on things, usually. But now, it's just depressing. Newest victim of the slaughterer of Salem, Victoria Hemming, 36. The slaughterer of Salem. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it? I begin reading the article, my heart breaking for the woman that I used to see often when I went to the library. She would get the history books and keep them for weeks past their expiration date. She and Miss Rita have long been best friends. But Rita has always hated Victoria's lack of attention to due dates. If the due date were just a suggestion, It wouldn't be called a due date, she would say. I hope she's holding up. This news must be devastating to her. I have always liked the friendship of Victoria and Rita. Victoria is so much younger and always so interested in everything and so able to talk to everyone, and yet clearly always so lonely. And Miss Rita, so eccentric, so protective, and yet always there for the young women in the town. So many of us looking for wisdom and insight in the old library. I don't know what to do with what I am feeling right now. The phone rings. Hey, Doring Enterprises? I answer unsteadily, unable to tear my eyes away from the news displaying in front of me, which has now turned into a gruesome detailing of Victoria's mangled body. I don't want to read it, but I can't stop. I patch the collar onto a salesperson and finish the article on the edge of my seat. God, what the hell is happening in this town? The door to the office opens, and I turn toward it, forcing myself to get ready to smile and say, "Hi, welcome to Doring Enterprises," the way I have been carefully conditioned to do. But my fake customer service smile drops as soon as I see who is striding through the door. He's tall, and he's wearing his stupid jean jacket. And he looks angry and rumpled and strangely at home as he stalks right up to my garish receptionist's desk. "Daniel?" I say. "What are you doing here?" "What do you think I'm doing here?" he shoots back. "You aren't answering any of my messages." He has pulled up ramrod straight in front of my desk, and at least he is not leaning his hands on it like my creepy boss. Daniel looks at me, his eyes like storm clouds, changing color and intensity moment to moment. I try not to get lost in their turmoil. "That's because I blocked your number," I tell him crisply, rolling my eyes. Of course I blocked him. I blocked him weeks ago when he made it clear the incessant calls weren't going to stop, and when I realized I did not need to let anyone walk all over me and my needs and my feelings. He huffs, crossing his arms over his chest, which, I must say, I notice, has gotten quite a bit more taut and broad since we broke up. To be honest, he seems to be bordering on a gym rat bod right now. Only maybe better. He almost looks like he's been building houses and hauling dirt and rowing boats. His dark hair is in his face, blocking his expression. But when he shakes his head, I see raw anger in the strained muscles of his neck and the twitch in his cheek. And I stop imagining him building houses for Habitat for Humanity in the bayous of Mississippi. His face scares me. I've never seen him like this before. He's been a dumbass. He's been reactive. But I've never seen him look so mean, so angry, so wound up, so uncontrolled. "I went by your place yesterday," he tells me. "You weren't there." "Where I am isn't your business anymore," I say, my hand already moving toward the phone so that I can call security. I pick it up and dial the number, though I don't bring it to my ear. I don't want him to see. It will only make him more agitated. "Come on, Margie," he begs, his eyes darting around the room as if in search of a place to land. "I made a mistake. I should never have broken up with you, but you've got to talk to me sometime." "I broke up with you," I correct him, "after you cheated on me. There's no mistake here, except for me not seeing it sooner." I see all the heads in the office turning towards us. People are hanging up their phones and stopping their typing so they can watch us and listen to the drama unfold. God forbid any of them get up and help me. "Margie, you know me," he begs, bracing his hands on my desk as he leans in. Uh-oh. I don't like this move with my boss, and I don't like it with my ex-boyfriend. I look over to my coworkers at their own desks, who are intently watching but making no move to get up. I make eye contact with a few of them, but they look away right as we do. Give me another chance. Come on. I don't even know why you're here, Daniel, I say. I've given up trying to understand him. Even if I wanted to, I can't go there today. I'm all wound up about being a witch with a cat who talks, and here comes Daniel, who acts like he doesn't care about me one day and then just shows up here today like he can't live without me, with no explanation, no rational case made. And now there's been another murder. My mind is spinning, and my ex-boyfriend is in my personal space, and I'm done with it. You need to leave, I tell him. I'm not just gonna leave, Margie. He grits his teeth as he says it, as if he's literally planting himself, and he really won't budge unless he is torn out by his roots. Excuse me. Arthur pokes his head out of his office. Then the rest of his large body comes with it. He sidles up to the two of us at my station, eyeing Daniel the whole time. What's going on here? He was just leaving, I answer before Daniel can say anything. I wish I were at home, where I could blast Daniel back out of my house again, or anywhere else where people couldn't see me. He looks at me as if he is not happy with my choice to speak out. Why am I not surprised? No, I'm not, he argues, then looks toward Arthur. Women, am I right? Just then, the building security guard comes in. It's Hank today. He's old and near retired and likely doesn't want to be there, but he still comes forward, a resigned but resolute look on his weathered face. Daniel looks at me with shocked betrayal when he sees Hank coming towards him. You called security? He says, and I give him an incredulous look. Of course I did, I say. You showed up at my work and won't leave. All right, buddy, time to go, Hank says, grabbing onto Daniel's arm to take him away from the office. But Daniel resists, ripping his arm back and turning his body toward the old man. I'm not going anywhere, he says, until I talk to Margie. Now, don't get mouthy with me, boy, Hank warns him. The young lady asked you to leave, and you don't have clearance here now. He grabs his arm again, but this time, instead of taking it back, Daniel winds up his other into a left hook, punching Hank right in the jaw. I'm left frozen. I should do something, anything. But I don't know any spells for this, and I don't know how I've made things just happen before. I don't even know what I want to happen. I just know I want this to stop. Hank stumbles back, the impact making him fall against the door and struggle to stay up. I gasp, rising from my spot at my desk and rushing to the collapsing old man. Daniel tries to get my attention, even grabbing at my hand, but I manage to evade him, running to Hank's side and struggling to help him up. Okay, pal. A group of my coworkers have gotten up at this point and are crowding around us. Paul, the biggest of them, puts a hand on Daniel's shoulder and says, It's time to go. What? No, he protests, but there are 3 men forcing him out the door now. Even evil gym rat Daniel can't punch his way out of that one. I'm so sorry, Hank, I tell the stumbling man when he's more stable. I feel awful. He took a punch because of me, and I could have stopped it. I know I could have, but I didn't. It's not your fault, Margie, Hank tells me, though I'm not sure if I agree. I have to be honest, though. I have no idea what you ever saw in him. But that's the thing. I feel like it isn't him. That isn't the Daniel that asked me to the senior prom by spelling it out in candles on my parents' lawn. The Daniel that cried when he lost his virginity to me. The Daniel that made me feel like things were going to be okay. Now I know nothing is okay. And he's just making it worse. Yeah, I just say, giving Hank a small, sad smile. Me neither. Chapter 8. I spend my usually relaxing walk home constantly looking over my shoulder, alternating my pace from what I hope is contained and casual to an almost mad dash until I finally make it back to my apartment. I feel more than a bit paranoid, but I can't help it. And to be honest, I think my feelings are warranted. That's 4 murders now. All of them Salem women. All of them I know. Or knew. Today, it was Eleanor Rodley. I knew her from school. She was 3 years older than me, and I think she was the prom queen when I was a freshman. Or maybe she was the homecoming queen. Either way, she was beautiful and kind, and she certainly should not be dead. It seems like the murders are just getting closer and closer. I struggle with my keys, finally getting them into the door and opening it, where I am greeted by Salem. He meows and gets up at his hind legs, pawing at me to pick him up. "I've got you, buddy," I say, walking into my apartment, scooping him up and nuzzling his head. "What? Don't have anything to say?" "Not at this precise moment, as far as I know," he says, and I laugh. This little guy is so proper. I set Salem back down, and in possession of his own space again, he regards me with what I've come to know as his serious expression. "Margie," Salem says, "I can see from your expression and the ill-concealed sweat on your brow that this has not been an easy day. Can I just tell you that, though events will continue to be difficult, you can meet them with your strength and my familiar help. We are a team of the best sort. We do have an I in our team." I'm not always quite sure what to make of Salem's pronouncements, but they are always supportive and reassuring, if sometimes kind of indecipherable in their reference. So I thank him, and he pads back to the bedroom while I head to the kitchen to start making dinner, a little more relaxed, and maybe even ready to eat something other than a smoothie or a can of beans. But just when I'm about to turn on the oven, there's a firm knock on my door. I wonder who that could be. Opening the door, I'm met with huge emerald green eyes, surrounded by matted gray hair and wrinkles. The old woman. I jump away from the door, not expecting to see her here of all places. I guess that protection spell didn't work after all. "What are you doing here?" I demand, trying to gain composure after my embarrassing outburst. Then I ask another pressing question. "Who are you?" "I'm Priscilla," she answers as if that explains anything. "And you're Margie." "Yes, I know that," I say. "Now, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to help you," she says. And it sounds sickly sweet, like she is a Girl Scout offering me cookies or something. "I don't even know you." "Ah," she says, "but I know you." "Are you?" I take a big gulp. No questioning, no being meek about this. Stand tall. You're a fucking witch, for heaven's sake. You're the killer, aren't you? You're here to kill me. The old woman, Priscilla, throws back her head and laughs. "You! Oh, you! Ha!" She can barely squeeze her words out between her paroxysms of giggles. I frown. I don't think anything about this is that funny. "You don't know anything, do you?" "I know things!" I defend myself. Although, hearing it back, it sounds so silly. Like a petulant child who's arguing that they know best. I do. I don't know. You're always following me around, and you just showed up into town out of nowhere, and you know what? I don't even know why I'm talking to you. I shake my head, going to close the door, but when I go to shut it, it won't budge. Priscilla raises an eyebrow at me, and then says, "May I come in, dear? I can't unless you invite me." "What? Are you a vampire?" I ask. If witches are real, who's to say all those other late-night movie creatures aren't too? Who says I don't do my research? I have read a book or two, watched an old movie or two since this nightmare began. Damn straight. And I would rather not invite a vampire into my house. She chuckles. "Not a vampire. It's that protection spell you put on your home. No unwanted visitors may enter." "But I don't want you here," I say, unable to help the smile. So the spell worked. I did it. Just then, I hear Salem meow behind me. He comes barreling through the living room and hops right up to Priscilla. She catches him and laughs, giving him a little scratch between his ears. I gasp. "Salem, how could you?" "She's here to help us, Margie," Salem says, apparently having no problem talking in front of this woman. I look to see her reaction, and she doesn't even look mildly surprised. "She's here to help you." I eye her suspiciously, but if Salem trusts her, I suppose I do too. "Fine," I relent, moving out of the way of the door. "Please, come in." She smiles and does so, putting Salem down on the carpet as she enters. "Now," she says as she goes to my big purple chair and sits right down in it like she owns the place. "Where should we start?" She leans her head back and sighs, taking in the room in a long breath. Her gray mane of curls seem to dance in the flickering light of my lamps. And her skin is luminescent, opalescent, sometimes lavender, sometimes eggplant, sometimes an earthy hazel green, strangely glowing and calming as she makes herself a part of my home. It's weird. I'm going to take control of this conversation, I tell myself. I'm going to be the witch I'm called to be. We could start with why you're here. I begin with what I consider a strong, assertive, yet not aggressive opening. I take a seat on the couch. Salem takes his spot next to me, making a couple of circles around the cushion before finding the right place to sit. "Your familiar was right," she says, gesturing toward Salem. "I'm here to help." "How did you—" I trail off. Of course. Of course she's a witch. How did I not see that before? She's practically a walking stereotype of one. "You're a witch." "I am," she nods. "In fact, I'm the head of the Salem Coven. I was living in Denver before I was told I would be needed here for a very special set of circumstances." "What circumstances are those?" "The murders," she says gravely. Her face falls, and its sudden empty pallor somehow bleaches to an even more pale shade of colorless. Clearly, the murders are weighing heavily on her. So I was right. It is all related. I don't believe I've ever been so unhappy about being right. "So, is it witches?" I ask, and she shakes her head, causing the beads on her necklaces to swoosh and crackle. "Not the killer," she says, "but the victims. All of them." "Wait, all of them?" That means that all those women I knew, were witches this whole time? My 6th grade science teacher? The co-ed that I always saw at the grocery store? The woman who was always late to turn in books to the library? All of them were witches? "All of them," she nods. "Not all of them had come into their powers, but all of them had great power within them. Great power that will go to waste." She looks so regretful, almost racked by pain as she says it. That's horrible, I say. Yes, it is, she agrees. But we have much to discuss. Because I fear, Margie, that you may be next. Chapter 9. What do you mean? I ask with a broken voice, a mix of shame and fear rushing through me. I am so quick to worry about myself now, after hearing of the horror my sisters have already suffered. My sisters? Where did that come from? I don't want to know these things, and my suspicions coming true is not what I want to hear. Why do you think I'm next? Your powers have only recently come to light, yes? Priscilla says, tilting her head and peering at me brightly through glowing gray curls. I nod. Yeah, just a couple of days ago, I tell her. I thought I was going crazy. We all do, she says, the smallest hint of a smile on her face. I received my powers when I was a little girl, and I had my mother to guide me through it, but even so, I felt like I was going mad. I could suddenly do all these things that I had no control over. I would get mad and my food would explode. I would have a nightmare and my room would look like a tornado had blown through it. It's a lot to handle, and it takes a lot to find peace with it. So, how do you? I ask. You find your coven, she says. You find your familiar. You begin to ground yourself and realize your powers are of the earth, gifted to you by the earth, and that they are simply a part of you now. She says it wistfully and extravagantly, like it's a beautiful revelation, a gift that enriches your life. But for me, it's more terrifying than anything else. It's just like learning to do anything, like exercising a new muscle. You're weak at first. You can't control what happens. But as you grow stronger, so does your will. I haven't stepped into a gym since high school, so this doesn't bode well for me. You already have your familiar? She smiles at Salem, and by instinct, my hand goes to him, petting his soft gray fur. That's one of the hardest parts. You're doing fantastic already. But that doesn't explain why you think I'm next. I bring it back around, needing to hear about why I could be in danger. If I should be scared for my life, I need to know. She sighs, leaning back into the chair. No, it doesn't, does it? Well, there's the obvious. You're a young and powerful witch who is not in a coven. You're practically waiting for a hunter to snatch you up. A hunter? I repeat. There are people out there who hunt? Witches? Of course there are. She rolls her eyes. We're powerful. We can do things that regular humans can't even imagine. As long as people know about us, there will be people after us. They covet our power and try to take it. So, that's why all those women... I take a deep breath. Those poor women. That's why they were killed? Because someone wanted their power? She nods. We've seen it before, but never thought that someone would be bold enough to pull a massacre like this in a town so small, she says. That's why we set up a coven here in the first place. Generations ago, our sisters set up this coven as a sanctuary, away from the chaos and risks in the city. This is the first time that peace has been challenged. She takes a deep sigh. It's sad, too. The methods these hunters use, they don't measure power or skill. They only measure potential. That is in your blood. She points at me. That has been there since the day you were born.
She takes her hand back, setting it in her lap and looking forlornly out the window.
Your power came to light because we needed you. There have been awakenings all over town because of our dwindling numbers and the potential for even more. But some of the girls who were killed,
she sniffles, clearly trying to keep herself together.
They weren't even awake in themselves. They were killed for being a witch before they even knew what that meant.
Shock barrels through me. I want to scream. I never wanted any of this, and neither did the women who were killed. Neither did Victoria, or Heather, or Christina, or anyone else. I stand, and Salem does as well, standing at attention. You need to leave, I tell Priscilla, but she doesn't move.
You need to learn, she says, and you won't do it by reading those old nursery rhymes.
You said the protection spell worked, I argue, crossing my arms petulantly. Doesn't seem like a nursery rhyme to me.
Well, it is,
she insists, huffing and throwing her arms up like all of this stuff is obvious.
The intent was the reason why the spell worked. It's the witch's intent that she must learn to control. Whether or not you use any words at all is up to you. But that old Mother Goose poem certainly doesn't have any power behind it.
Well, I'm sorry, I say. That I'm not perfect at this, but I never wanted this in the first place. I don't want to be a witch. I want to be normal. I have to admit, though, that I'm glad I was correct about the absurdity of the serpent smote and his, or her, being able to smite things into 9 parts. That was just incoherent. I didn't want it then, and I don't want it now.
You don't have a choice, darling.
Priscilla looks sympathetic, but firm.
But please, let us protect you.
How can you protect me? I say. It sounds like I'm already done for if your theory is correct. And so far, your observations have been eerily accurate.
It's true. You are at risk, she says, which is why you must join us. Your protection spell can keep the hunter away from your home. But what happens in the outside world, What will you do if he comes after you? And you have no control. And you have yet learned no way to contact your sisters.
I don't know, I yell. I wince at the sound of my own voice, but I can't help but raise it. I'm frustrated and I'm scared. Salem meows and claws at me, asking me to open my arms for him to jump in. I open my arms, and he hops right into them, taking up position between my shoulder and my neck, nuzzling into me. It calms me down a bit, and I take a deep sigh before telling Priscilla. The more I find out about all of this, the less sure I am that I can be a part of it, that it's even safe to be a part of it.
You're in danger either way, she tells me with debilitating honesty. At least with us, you'll have a fighting chance.
She leans back in my purple chair and rolls her shoulders up, down, and back, and then breathes a long breath. When she looks at me again, she is a young woman with lavender skin and raven hair, and she smiles at me with bright confidence.
Wow. We are not without power,
she tells me, eyes shining.
You are not without power. We can save you, and we can save others. You feel it. Now know it. Own it. And join us.
I take a deep breath and look down at Salem, who somehow looks dignified even as he curls against my neck. He gives me a nod, and I know he's right. They both are. I just don't like admitting it. Fine, I say, sitting back down on the couch. What do I have to do? Chapter 10. I didn't sleep well last night. Salem had to practically smother me with cuddles in order for me to even fall asleep. And I know it took a toll on him because now that he talks, he also mutters under his breath. And I'm pretty sure he's frustrated at the fact that he had to sing the equivalent of cat familiar lullabies to get me to sleep. I suspect he is also disappointed that I am not a quick study in the witch department. At any rate, thanks to my constant waking and my occasional sleeping, I wasn't late for work today. A few hours of rest under my witch's hat. I even showered before work, which almost never happens. And I sat down and ate a balanced breakfast. How's that for managing stress in a mature manner? I guess it's no surprise that I've had trouble sleeping, considering all the information that has been hurled at me over the last several days. It's hard to absorb all of that and just be cool with it. What would cool with it even mean? The idioms I have used with myself to think about my life don't even make sense anymore. Of course, I'm gonna lose some sleep. I'm sure this isn't the only night either. I'm supposed to meet the coven tonight. Did I just say I'm supposed to meet the coven tonight? Salem? Yes, Margie, I'm here. Salem, I just said to myself I'm supposed to meet the coven tonight. Am I crazy? No, Margie, but you are under a lot of pressure and stress, and it is a dangerous situation we are all facing, and I am here for you. Salem pushes his precious head against my shaky palm as I finish my cereal, taking a quick opportunity to lick a bit of milk out of the bowl. I am not going to chastise him for that. So, I'm going to meet a coven. My coven. It's going to be my new reality. Even the thought of it causes nerves to shoot through me and sends a shiver down my spine. I'm going to be walking into a coven of witches with only the good word of a woman I thought 2 days ago was a serial killer telling me that it's safe. Jeez, things sure are different around here. I took my time getting to work, feeling at least a little bit more confident in my ability to protect myself after what Priscilla said, and after the solid comfort and friendship Salem has given me. It's the intention behind a spell that matters. That's what makes it happen. So, if push comes to shove, if someone comes at me, I should be able to fight them off, right? Priscilla wasn't so sure. But this is what I am telling myself so that I don't go crazy with fear. Thankfully, nothing too alarming happens on my way to work. Just the usual people out and about. A couple of joggers, the hot dog stand guy, a little girl with a homemade lemonade stand. I stopped by that last one, giving her $1 in exchange for some powdered lemonade. Seems like an even trade. I noticed, though, as I walk down the streets of Salem, that I'm looking at everyone differently. Every woman I see, I can't help but wonder. Is she a witch? A sister? Does she have the potential to become one? And I look at the men and think, is he out to get me? More than usual, that is. Could he be the hunter that was warded off by my protection spell, who killed witches to harness their power? It's like a whole new world has been opened in front of my eyes, and I have no idea who else even knows about it. Sometimes I'll catch a glance of a girl, and I think she knows. But she looks away, and I think, I was just staring that poor woman down, and she probably has no idea why. I'm such a creep. She's going to have to call her therapist, and her therapist won't understand because, of course, you can't explain this sort of thing. I better stop looking at people. But what if they're looking at me? Making it to work in one piece is a relief. Though I can only hope it stays that way since Daniel showed up yesterday. The memory of it makes my blood boil. What made him think he had the right to come to my workplace anyway? And why was he acting so strange? What happened to him? I say hello to the doorman on my way in. He is always very welcoming. "You want to take the elevator today, miss?" he says with a laugh. "I'll keep you safe." "Oh, David," I say, "you know I can't. Exercise is my friend. And even with you to protect me, I can't get in a box like that. But thank you." I take a risk and wear my running shoes up the stairs, donning my absurd heels when I hit the landing of A during Enterprises. It's a relief to be here early. Not everyone is here yet. I hope my punctuality makes up for my being 67 seconds late yesterday. Not that I care much if it doesn't. I get into my seat at the tasteless front desk and settle in, ready for another boring day of answering phones and diffusing the come-ons of Arthur Doring. I wish you could get paid to be a witch. Then I wouldn't need this stupid job. That would be a way bigger perk to this whole thing. The rest of my coworkers begin to trickle in. Some of them give me weird looks, no doubt due to what happened yesterday. I try to ignore it, giving them a smile back. Kill them with kindness, right? I get through about an hour of just sitting there and doing actual work before my curiosity gets the better of me. I bring up the computer search engine, looking around me to make sure no one is watching me browse, and search Salem, Colorado murders. The world is spinning in Salem, Colorado, a small town about 2 hours out of Denver. Despite its historically record-low crime rate, a serial killer recently seems to have made Salem their new stomping ground. Local police say that 5 women have fallen prey to the so-called slaughterer of Salem. The suspect is thought to be a man between the ages of 25 and 45, likely in good physical condition, who has an unparalleled hatred and rage toward women, judging from the gruesome nature of these crimes. It goes on for a bit, including eulogies for the victims, but also going into way more detail than is necessary about the way their bodies were found. It makes my stomach turn. "Anything interesting?" I hear a voice say behind me, and I turn to see Arthur standing over me. He must have tiptoed his way over here because I didn't hear him at all. I jump at the realization that he's standing there, as do the pens on my desk, though he doesn't seem to notice. Thank God. He's too focused on making me squirm. "Just reading up on the news," I answer, looking down. I don't like the way his gaze covers me, nearly touches me. Damn, I really need a new job. "You should be working," he tells me. I nod. "I know. Sir, I'll get right on that," I say. And he scoffs, crossing his arms and walking back to his office. That was weird, right? It felt weird. Although it's not anywhere close to the weirdest thing that's happened to me lately. I take one last look at the article in front of me, racking my brain. I know everyone in this damn town. That means I must know who's doing this. But who? My mind pointedly ignores the obvious answer. Showed up in town out of nowhere. A strong, young man with a sudden passion for being misogynistic. But it can't be Daniel. I would know, wouldn't I? And more importantly, if it was Daniel, I think I would have been dead a long time ago. Chapter 11. The air is crisp and the sky is gray when the time comes to, as Priscilla said, meet the coven. I'm nervous. I can't exactly tell what for, though. I don't know if it's because of excitement or terror or perhaps a mix of both. But there's no turning back now. I know I can't back out. Not easily. I'm going to meet the coven, and I'm going to become a part of it. I get ready for this meeting the way I get ready for a date. Funny enough. I don't know why. I doubt any of these women are going to care if my legs are shaved or I smell like ocean mist. But I can't help but primp myself like a schoolgirl getting ready. Salem gives me a weird look, but I ignore him. He's a cat after all. All of his looks are a bit weird. There's a knock on my door right on the dot at 11:45, just the time that Priscilla said she would be here. I go to open it and see the old woman dressed to the nines herself. Her long gray hair is braided, and she looks like Stevie Nicks in her green bell-sleeved dress. I give her a smile, but she looks very serious. "Are you ready?" she asks, and I nod. "I think so," I say. "At least, I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be." "You may bring your familiar if you want," she says flippantly. "Many people do." "Salem?" I look back at my cat and can't help but smile. "I'd rather he stay here where he's safe, if that's okay." "Whatever you'd like." Priscilla agrees flippantly, clearly ready to get on the road. I say goodbye to my cat and grab my jacket on the way out. "So, where is it that we're going?" I ask Priscilla, who simply waves me off and steps into the apartment that I am trying to step out of. She grabs my hands, and I look at her quizzically, but let her grasp them tightly. "Close your eyes," she orders me. "Why?" I ask. She doesn't answer me, but before I know it, all I see around me is flashing lights and the world whizzing by around me. I blink harshly, my eyes readjusting to what I'm seeing, which is now a field. Grass and a small stage and lots of women. I gasp. It looks just like the field where I saw Priscilla in my dream. I look at her. She's still a bit fuzzy as my eyes adjust to these new conditions. "How did you do that?" I ask, shocked, and smiles. "Magic, dearie," she says. "I've been doing it a lot longer than you." She leads me toward the crowd, introducing me to a few of the girls in the front. There are a few people that I don't know. An older woman named Crystal and her daughter Trisha, who gives me a big hug as soon as she meets me and says that we're going to be great friends. I laugh nervously, but for some reason, I believe her. There are also lots of people I see that I do know. Miss Rita from the library. Polly Rockhurst is there, whom I always see at parties but have never really talked to. Jasmine Hemphill from my high school's homecoming court sees me and smiles big, walking right up to me and saying, "Margie, I always had a feeling about you." Everyone is so kind, so welcoming. They treat me as if I've been one of them for years, like we really are sisters. The sorority sisters, kind of sisters, I imagine. Like we're all part of some club that we were chosen for. I was never in a sorority. Hell, I've never had a sister. No matter how much I begged my parents for one. "My sisters!" Priscilla yells from the stage. I didn't even notice she'd gone up there. Everything down here screeches to a halt. We all turn to hear Priscilla speak. She's there, talking to a sea of people, but somehow it feels like she's looking right at me, taking me in, and I wonder if everyone else feels that too. She must be a damn good speaker, if so. "We all know the horror that has been going on in this town. Our coven is in danger. You can ignore it all you want, but please, I beg of you, don't. I don't want to lose any more of my family." "Who's doing this?" someone shouts from the back, and Priscilla frowns. "We don't know," she admits. "The hunter is advanced. Very advanced. We fear he may..." He may have found a way to truly harness our power. We don't know if it's through his own doing or the forced doing of his victims. But all of our usual efforts to find him have been proved moot.
There's whispering amongst the crowd. I look around, trying to listen in on what is being said, but it feels like my ears aren't working right. All I can hear is Priscilla. She's like a magnet to me.
My sisters,
Priscilla says again, pleading this time.
Please, you must keep yourselves safe. Stay in your protected homes. Only trust those within the coven. Even your families could be involved.
For how long? Someone yells. How long must we live in hiding?
Until we find the bastard.
Priscilla loses her composure for a moment, and the audience before her gasps. She takes a deep breath and continues, more calmly.
Please, we are doing everything we can. I promise. I know it's hard. I know that it's isolating. I know how much it pains you all to feel like you're living in hiding. But, she sighs, please, I can't lose another coven.
Chapter 12. I leave the meeting with the coven feeling more alive than I have in a really, really long time. I feel like I'm really a part of something bigger than myself. I didn't expect to love it. I expected to sit through it and roll my eyes and tell Priscilla that I thank her for the protection, but it's not for me. But that's not how I felt at all. Immediately, I knew I would do anything to protect these women, to protect the coven. Maybe it's in my blood. I don't know, but it's exciting. I'm practically skipping as I walk back to my apartment. I feel like nothing could get me down, and I really mean that. That is until I see a familiar figure making his way toward me. His dark hair and brown skin are even darker when only lit by the moon, and his usual black clothes don't help. I can barely see him until he's nearly right in front of me. And immediately, I'm angry. Daniel, I say, hesitant. I don't know what he wants from me, but I'm starting to think that him coming back here was not a good thing at all.
Margie,
he says, slithering up closer to me.
What are you doing out here so late?
He sounds accusatory, and I stumble over a lie to tell him, but then I realize, why are you? His eyes flicker to the left. Whatever he's about to say, it's a lie. That was always his tell. He can't make eye contact when he lies.
I was just going on a walk, but you shouldn't be out so late. It's dangerous. Come on, I'll take you home.
He grabs my arms and starts leading me toward my apartment, but I pull it back, not wanting to be anywhere near him in the dark. I don't need you to walk me home, I say firmly and turn, walking along without him. But he grabs me again.
Margie, stop.
I try to pull my arm back to myself once again, but he doesn't budge. His hold on me tightens, and I'm not strong enough to get out of his hold. At least, not on my own. Let me go, I warn him.
Why are you avoiding me, Margie?
He says, pulling me closer to him. He's practically whispering when he says,
What? Are you scared of me or something?
Maybe I have a reason to be. I mumble, only making him angrier.
Come on, let's go home.
He starts walking in the direction of my apartment again, me in his tow.
Then we can talk.
Panic starts to set within me. Why is he so insistent? Unless he wants something from me. Images flicker through my mind. Images of Daniel standing over the bodies of the girls.
the witches whose lives were taken from them. His eyes look so dark, so sinister as he looks at me, like he's going to pounce if I try to get out. My heart beats in my ears. I need to get out of here. The startling reality starts to settle in. Priscilla was right. I'm next. No! I struggle to get out of his grasp, but he's not letting up. I don't want to die. That's all I can think as I end up kicking and screaming, trying to fight to get away from him. I don't want to die. Jesus, Margie, calm down. He rolls his eyes, but he still isn't letting go. Desperate, I listen. I calm down and look within myself, trying to do what Priscilla said, finding the intention. And I just want him gone. Suddenly, like a blast of wind, he is thrown away from me. I didn't even push him. He just goes flying. Taking this as my cue to run? I do, pounding my feet into the pavement so much it hurts. Margie! He yells behind me. I turn my head to see him stumbling up from the ground. I let out a sob and keep running, my feet already killing me. I don't know how I'm going to make it all the way home at this pace, but I have to. My heart yearns for someone, anyone to help. Priscilla, Salem, any of the witches I had just met. My sisters, who I barely got a chance to know. Margie? I hear an inquisitive voice from a car driving by. It's Arthur, my horrible boss that I never thought I would be so happy to see. Arthur, I say, letting out a laugh of relief. Are you okay? He asks. Do you need a ride? I don't think twice about it. I just nod, hopping into the passenger seat of the car and locking the door. I let out a sigh, letting the safe feeling of the car wash over me. I'm okay. At least for now, I'm okay. What happened back there? Arthur asks as he drives off. And I jump, almost forgetting that he was there. Oh, that's right. After hearing me scream for my life and jumping into his car, he might like an explanation. It's just my ex. Remember he came into work? Yes. Of course. How could I forget? Arthur says, taking a right turn. Seems like a violent young man. Probably good you broke up with him. Yeah, I say, pointing to the left. The best way to get to my place is that way. Oh, I thought we could have a drink at my house, he says. I fight the urge to roll my eyes. Of course, even at a time like this, he's trying to get me back to his house. Just for a drink. Besides, is it safe for you at home right now? It is. But if one drink is what it takes to get him off my back, then sure, whatever. Okay, I agree as he continues on his way to his place. In the nicer part of town, the houses get bigger and the lawns get greener. One drink. The rest of the car ride is mostly silent, thank God. I would rather not try to come up with small talk at a time like this. Arthur pulls up to his house that borders on a mansion. I check behind me, just making sure that Daniel didn't somehow follow us here. Thankfully, he's nowhere to be seen. We lost him. I follow Arthur into his house, already dreading the drink I was about to have. I watch him pour it, not looking away, just in case he slips something into it or something. He doesn't, just hands me the dark liquid with nothing else in it, like I'm some kind of Bond villain, but I smile as I take it. The sooner this is over with, the sooner I can get home. So, Margie, he says, sitting down, what were you doing out so late? I clear my throat. Club meeting. Club? He sounds interested. I didn't know you were into extracurriculars, so to speak. He laughs, and I take it as a cue to follow. What club is it? A book club, I answer, because it's the first thing I think of. I finally gave in to the small town woman curse and joined one. I chuckle nervously, taking a large gulp of the horrible tasting scotch that he's given me. Ah, a book club, he muses. My ex-wife was in the Salem book club. They always met on Mondays. I hum. Well, this one meets tonight. Right. The air is heavy between us. But then, before I know it, it starts to get even heavier. My eyelids are fighting to close, and I force them open, trying to stay in the conversation. Tired, Margie? He asks. Not at all, I say, but it comes out slurred. My eyes widen. What's happening to me? Oh, don't be too scared, he says, setting his glass down on the table between us. Not a sip taken. It's just the sedative taking effect. It's a quick one, made by one of your kind. What of my kind? I repeat. Oh God, I was wrong. I was so wrong. A witch, he says as my eyes betray me, beginning to close. You didn't think I didn't know, did you? What are you? I trail off as the dark overtakes me. All I see is darkness. My mind blank, as I can't help but succumb to it. Before I know it, I'm limp and knocked out. Chapter 13. I wake up confused and dirty, laying on a hard surface that feels like concrete. I feel it all before I can open my eyes to see it. I've been locked in a basement. Worse, I've been locked in Arthur Doring's basement. The real killer. The hunter. I feel so stupid as I begin to wake up. He's not down here. Not that I can see. And it's not a big space with much room to hide. The panic begins to set in as I scramble up from the floor. There's no way to the outside, besides a tall window that I could not even hope to fit through. There's nothing down here besides cobwebs and gardening equipment. I never thought a rake and hose could look so menacing. I tiptoe to the door, trying to open it. But of course, it's locked. I focus on it, wishing that it would open, begging it to open. But I try it again, and it's still locked shut. I huff, taking a lap around the small room. I need to get out of here. There's got to be a way. Salem, I whisper, mostly to myself, but praying that my cat will hear it. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, I'm in trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm at Arthur Doring's house. He's the killer, and I don't know how long I have left. As soon as I'm finished, I hear the door open, and I crowd against the back wall. I don't want him coming near me. Stay back, I demand as he enters, trying to push him away. But again, it doesn't work. He laughs. You don't think I'd let you keep your powers down here, do you? He says, practically in a fit of giggles. Of course not. That sedative I gave you did away with those. For now, at least. Just stay away from me. I try my best to demand, but he bursts into laughter again. Oh, Margie, he says, shaking his head. I'm afraid I can't do that. It is a shame, though. He reaches out to caress my face. I take a step back. It is a shame you have to die, though. I always thought you were pretty. I'll do anything, I beg, telling myself I won't cry as the tears prickle in my eyes. I breathe in hard, trying to force them back. Please, just let me live. Sorry, Margie, he says. My hands are tied. A noise tings upstairs and he jumps. Oh, he says excited. That must be my tea. You don't mind waiting, do you? What? He's going to leave me down here while he drinks tea? It's not just a regular tea. He rolls his eyes. It's quite important for my ability to keep my control over you. Over your kind. Don't worry, you'll become very acquainted with it soon. He chuckles as he walks up the stairs, shutting and locking the door behind him once again. I'm left with even more questions now. Was this man going to brew me into tea or something? He's so sinister, so nonchalant in his terror. My head feels loopy again, but I push through it, refusing to fall asleep. I look at the room around me. There's barely any room in it at all, but I need to find a way out of here. For myself, for Salem, and for the coven. Chapter 14. I keep trying to cast some kind of spell, trying to think of a way to get out. Just do something. Sprinkles of hope that I might have more time. That maybe everything will magically get better pepper through my thoughts. Because they have to. Because otherwise, I have to live with the horrible conclusion that this is it. With Arthur gone upstairs, I let myself do the thing I told myself I would not do in front of him. I start to cry. Salty tears fall down my face, and once I've started, I can't stop. I can't stop the water and snot and the sorrow from leaking out of me. The frustration from building up inside of me. It's all so horrible. And it's all so unfair. I kick the wall. It hurts my foot more than anything else, but I don't care. I kick it again and again until it feels like my leg is about to fall off and then collapse onto the dirty floor, sobbing into my arms as I curl up. I don't know how long I stay there, wallowing, accepting my fate. But I barely see the flash of golden eyes in the window, gasping. I have to do a double take to see if I'm making things up. Am I going crazy? It's Salem. It has to be. I'm so happy I could start crying all over again, for a completely different reason. But he holds up a paw telling me to stop. I hear footsteps coming down the stairs once again, and I brace myself for Arthur's return. Salem's little paw gestures at me, and instantly I know he's telling me to stall. I nod, trusting Salem with my life. I look toward the door that Arthur is about to walk through, and wait. He's carrying a cup of tea with him, and I want so badly to roll my eyes. Then he holds it out to me. Drink, he instructs. I snort. Absolutely not, I say. Why the hell would I do that? He shrugs. Fine, he says, and throws the tea on me. I gasp as the heat hits my skin. Thankfully, it's not burning hot, but it is shockingly warm and smells of piss and plants that I don't recognize. If I do get out of here, my hair is going to need to be washed like 20 times to get the smell out. I already know. It absorbs through your skin just fine. He giggles, setting the cup down on a small table. You're sick, I tell him. Maybe, he agrees. Maybe not. Maybe you're the sick one, having these powers. You're the freak of nature. I'm just taking advantage of it. What are you going to do to me? I ask, my eyes almost flickering back to Salem. But I stop myself. He told me to stall. If there's one thing I know about Arthur Doring, it's that he loves to talk about himself and his so-called genius. He laughs. What? You want me to tell you my evil plan? Please? I beg, and he smiles wide. All right, he agrees. You'll be dead soon anyway. Why not? It's quite simple, really. That tea you just refused to drink? The one working its way through your system right now? It's only suppressing your powers so you can't fight me. You are, after all, pathetic without them. He says it like it's a given. None of you can ever get away with them gone. But then what? I demand. Then I take your powers, he says simply. But how? I ask. You're human. You can't just... Oh, you're not that special, Margie, he says. It's in your blood. Once you're dead, I simply drain it out. My blood? I repeat. Jesus! I knew he was sick, but I didn't know how sick. It's worked so far, he says. And it worked for my father before me, and his father before him. I have to admit, drinking blood does make me feel like some other lowly creatures. He shudders. But with the power it gives me, it's worth it. I can't help the look of shock that appears on my face. I swear a fly could fly straight into my mouth, and I would barely notice my mouth is open so wide. He chuckles, clearly happy with himself, and pulls out a knife. I'm getting ready to run. I don't know where, but I'll run. When there's a knock on the door upstairs, he looks angrily towards the stairs and tells me, I'll be back. When he's gone, I look towards Salem, my eyes filled with fear, but he pushes the window open and hops down to me. Salem, no, I say to him, go back home. It's not safe here. Margie, it's going to be okay, he tells me, rubbing up against my feet. The police are here. It's over. Well, what? I gasp. Sure enough, I can hear commotion upstairs. What are you doing? Arthur demands, and I hear the police barking orders at each other, and look out the small window to see flashing blue and red lights. How? I ask Salem. He hops right up into my arms. I heard you, he says. I heard you, Margie. It was amazing, and I knew I had to help. Daniel was waiting outside the apartment, waiting for you. And well, I knew you wouldn't want me talking to him, but I didn't have a choice. He's the only one I knew would help. Daniel, I repeat. Salem nods. He took it all rather well, really, he says. Then he went to the police and told them that Arthur Doring was the slaughterer of Salem, and that if they went to his house, they'd find you with him. Apparently, they've been working on a case against him for weeks. They just couldn't find any solid proof until now. I can fear Arthur fighting the cops upstairs and being taken out of the house, presumably to be put in the police car. I don't know what to say, Salem. I give him a kiss on the forehead. Thank you. You're my angel, Margie, he tells me, snuggling into my chest. Saving you is the very least I could do. We stay like that for a while, cuddled up against each other while we wait for the police to come get us, enjoying the first feeling of safety I've felt since this whole thing started. Both just thankful that the other is all right. When finally a handsome young officer comes to get us, I'm almost in tears. I'm so happy. With Salem in my arms, I walk up the stairs. Free. Epilogue. A few weeks later. The weekly coven meeting is held earlier now, since we don't have to do it in the dead of night to hide from the hunter that was out to get us. It's become a ritual for me now, coming to the meeting. I've grown to know my sisters better, as well as their familiars. There are cats for Salem to meet, and rats, dogs, even a lizard. There aren't so many terrible things to talk about now. Now the coven meetings are more of a place for learning to harness my power, to focus, to take in things around me, create new things around me. I can do so much more now than I could before. My progress is visible, and I'm proud. I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of my coven, my sisters. Jasmine says goodbye to me and Salem as we make our way home. I'm still not advanced enough to just zap myself back like when I came here with Priscilla, but I don't mind walking. Neither does Salem. It's a beautiful night out after all, and I have some time before my next engagement. We make our way through the sleepy town, once again safe from harm as we walk through the coming darkness. Salem can't talk here, but I don't mind the silence as we head toward home. "Margie," I hear behind me. I turn to see Daniel. A part of me jumps, but he holds out a hand. I saw you walking by and He sighs, hanging his head. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really, I don't know what came over me. I just saw you and..." He stops himself, looking at me. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. And He looks at Salem. "I won't tell anyone about anything." I can't help the bit of warmth that fills in my heart. It's not enough to forgive him. Not yet. But it's a start. Thank you, Daniel. "Do you need someone to walk you home?" he asks, but I shake my head. "I'm okay," I tell him. "But thank you, really." He looks a bit disappointed, but he nods, heading back in the other direction. I look at Salem. "Not too bad, huh, bud?" I say. Salem purrs. When we finally get home, I don't have much time before I have to be out again. I have a date tonight, you see, with that hot police officer that came and got me from Arthur Doring's basement. I got ready before the coven meeting, so I was all spruced up. I got quite a bit of compliments on my black dress and red lips. So I can't wait for him to see it. I let myself and Salem in, setting him down on the couch and barely having time to get myself a glass of water when there's a knock on the door. I turn to my cat and smile. "Good luck," he says, winking at me. I giggle and head toward the door. For the first time in a long time, things feel like they're happening. And not horrible things. Not scary things. But wonderful, amazing things are coming to find me. I head over to give Salem one last pet on the head, hoping I can convey all the love I have for him in one little pat, and head toward the door. The end. This has been Better Witch Than Never. Written by Catherine Waltan. Narrated by Jessica Tipton.